24,500. 24,500 able young adults, aged 18 through 35, are leaving Lebanon every single year. That means that since 1990, over 600,000 of our young people have left. And those are conservative numbers. I have a question for all of you this morning. Please raise your hand if you or somebody that you know who's close to you has thought of leaving Lebanon or has already left. Perhaps I should be asking, who is not thinking of Lebanon and knows nobody that is thinking of leaving Lebanon? No hands went up in the room. Thank you very much. I left Lebanon. I left Lebanon in 2007. The war of 2006 was still fresh. And this country, it just did not feel like a place where we would get to grow. We were a particular group, aged 21 to 25. We were just graduating, and we were coming face-off with the labor market for the very first time. Our staggering exit numbers were a primary policy concern. Society was even telling us, if you leave, you will be considered more successful than if you stay. And we took that very personally. We felt deeply underappreciated by the Lebanese marketplace. It felt like a social injustice that this country did not want to invest in us and did not want to encourage us to grow. Youth unemployment, dysfunctional economics, and uncertainty, they became labels that lost their urgent flair. And by that point, no longer commanded a need to be fixed. And that's what happens when you fail to humanize the problem. Brain drain became our de facto first step into our careers. And that was almost 10 years ago. So for all of you who raised your hands just a moment ago, please raise your hands again. I have another question for you. From those whom you know, have they made a promise to return in 10 years? Keep your hands raised. If in 10 years a promise has been made to return. What about 5? Even fewer. Thank you very much for that. When I left, I had not made a promise to return. But I did come back 8 years after the fact. And I came back to Lebanon and I began to build a team of young students from this very university. And they became my startup team. And together, we made sure that job descriptions became mutual agreements, that we would take risk, and we would learn and build together, and we would stand up for each other along the way. And 2 years later, we're talking now 6 sets of internship programs later, 3 months each, 2 to 4 analysts in each program, and a growing full-time team of young analysts. my team accepted to be part of a new business building experience. And we were all excited because it meant that we actually got to be problem solvers in action. But I was not the only one who was learning. My team was learning at a rate that even I sometimes could not keep up with. But I also did not just learn in my capacity as an entrepreneur. I learned from my colleagues as being a peer in a young team. My team taught me that they were not about headcount. Recruiting and talent management became conversations that needed to be guided by empathetic learning. I learned that motivation, it cannot be spoon-fed. Each person needs to figure out their call to action in their own way. And that is a very delicate journey, and it takes time. And time needed to be granted. My team also taught me that they needed space. And that allowed me to learn the difference between managing people and building a business. And with space, there was now room for personal ownership. And the greatest moments that we've had together are when we've hit a roadblock. And the spirit of refusing to give up has always created the breeding ground we would need for innovation. And it showed the team that, yes, they were indeed problem solvers. And together, we built a learn-as-you-go model, a new type of education experience. And that education experience is now the centerpiece for all of the education and social impact projects that we run in the Middle East. My startup team of interns and young analysts, they became a team of mini entrepreneurs. And it was so easy in that environment to forget the traditional supply and demand dynamics of our Lebanese market. I remember one fine afternoon. It was the last day of one of our internship programs. And one of our outgoing colleagues came over to me so that we can do our handover, and he could pass on his client work onto me to take over. And as he was doing so, he all of a sudden stopped, and very visibly on his face, I could see the emergence of a freak-out moment. "Lynn," he said, "I do not know how to use a photocopying machine." I was perplexed, particularly so when the rest of the team also went into panic mode. Seeing that I was completely missing the point, my colleagues looked at me and said, "Lynn, how are we supposed to be ready for our next internship if we don't even know how to use the photocopying machine? What are they going to think we've done all summer?" I was deeply concerned. There was no way we were going to let our interns graduate unprepared for the deep demands of the Lebanese marketplace. And thanks to this young man, we now end our internship programs with a very special ceremony. We all go up to the photocopying machine, and then each graduating analyst is handed an A4 paper. And they go up to the machine, and they place the paper on the tray, and then, with a lot of guidance and specificity, they press the start button. Well, I'm very glad to report that to date, nobody has failed on their last day with us. And the good news is, next summer, we're even thinking of introducing a 3 paper. So why are we making it work? You see, every company is a microcosm of the broader marketplace that it's a part of. If there are dysfunctional companies, there shall be dysfunctional marketplaces. If companies can figure it out, the marketplace shall figure it out. And if companies and the rising youth can work with each other, listen to each other, and learn from each other, well then you get to build a marketplace built on trust. And trust, that system of trust, is what has allowed us to grow and learn along the way. Because my team has had to entrust in me a critical stepping stone in their careers. I have to be able to convince them and show them that it is worth to come over and learn from us, that they will learn and they will thrive. And there is no such thing as failing, because failing is part of success. But it is, as well, a two-way road. And I need to also trust my team with my business. And they demonstrate that for me every single day. Because when I feel overextended, it is my team that stands up and says, Lynn, don't worry, we've got this. And as a result, I get to watch beautiful performances day in and day out. So I encourage all of my young peers who are still abroad to come back and return with a curiosity to discover this country's most resourceful hidden treasure. Bring with you a drive to build businesses based on trust. Show the marketplace it is more than capable of taking care of its youth. And let us disrupt this brain drain with new terms and conditions. And as a returnee to this country, I can tell you, working with the Lebanese youth has ended up being the best hiring decisions that I could have ever made.